I'm here with Mike Salamino, the Director of Operations for NC State Baseball. First off, I just want to thank you for spending some time with me answering these questions. First, I'd just like to ask you some background on you. Where'd you go to college?
I went to school, my undergraduate at the University of Michigan.
University of Michigan.
Graduated in 2012, and then immediately went in, got my graduate degree in sport administration.
Do you know what kind of degree is required for Director of Operations? I know it might vary.
Yeah, no, I did sport management for my undergrad in sport administration, but anything with a business background doesn't necessarily need to be in sport, but anything that really preps you for a lot of different tasks, because I work with a lot of different department heads, whether it be marketing, finance. I manage our budget, and then pretty much really any department within the athletics campus I work with, and I'm the liaison with the baseball staff. So organization's key. So really any degree that requires you to work a lot, and then and also to be organized, would be good. But I think sport management, sport administration, prepared me pretty well.
Perfect. Did you have any experience prior to this current role for NC State?
Yeah. When I was in college, I worked with the baseball team at Michigan. I did that for my 4 years. I went there as a recruited walk-on and got humbled pretty quick, and transitioned to working with the team, and then did that for 4 years, and then was lucky enough to, while I was finishing my graduate degree, work full-time with the staff in an assistant operations role before coming here in 2014.
Kind of leading to this question now, from your past experience, how did it differ from now?
It's different. Every single staff is different. They're all composed similarly, and you got a head coach and 3 assistants. But here we're lucky at NC State to have the budget and the means to be able to have a second operations role within our staff. So that certainly helped, and that was a different challenge because instead of working alone within your department, you kind of have to kind of work together. So that was a different challenge. But the structure here at NC State is a little bit different. We had our development office within the athletic department. Here at NC State, we've got the Wolfpack Club, which is a separate entity. But overall, it was a good transition for me, and Michigan certainly prepared me well for what I face here at NC State.
What kind of skill set or skills do you think you need to have to be in this role or this position?
Like I mentioned, organization skills is important. Work ethic. There's a lot of long days, and certainly during the season, it's pretty much just 6 months of pedal to the metal, no days off. 12, 16-hour days. So you need to be able to work and have flexibility. You certainly need to have a good support system in place. Whether because your social life and your family life certainly takes a backseat, certainly during the season for sure. But certainly organization, work ethic are probably the 2 most important things.
What do you consider your strengths of being the Director of Operations here at NC State?
I think probably the most important thing is just being humble, and not taking anything too seriously. I'm not a proud person by nature, so whether it's an important thing like managing a $2 million budget, which is a pretty big deal, or taking out the trash, it's all important in the grand scheme of things. So being humble and just there's no task too big or too small. I think that's important.
How long have you been in this role?
This is my 5th season.
5th season.
Yep.
So run me through like a typical day here.
Yeah. Usually starts 8 o'clock. Start of the day is usually just kind of it's nothing formal. There's no formal meeting about it, but usually the staff kind of trickles in and we kind of talk about the previous day and go over what we're going to do, that day. And that can last 5 minutes. It can last 2 hours. There's really no, like I said, it's pretty informal, but it's pretty monotonous. We pretty much do it every morning, and then goes into just checking emails and going through emails, responding to the ones that maybe I missed overnight, or ones that I got earlier that day. And given it's cyclical, it's different times a year. When we're in fall practice, it's a little bit different than when we're in skill work, and then when we're in season, it's a completely different day. But typically speaking, after lunch, it goes more into the baseball stuff. You all start filtering in. So whether it's different tasks that I'm trying to get with players, I work with our academic staff, so usually trying to track down a guy and make sure that they're if they missed a class or they missed a paper or they have something coming up and I want to remind them, things like that. I try and be downstairs to have those conversations in person before practice, before skill work, and then during skill work or practice, I'm not a coach, so I'm not on the field, so that can be different. I'm tasked with something different every day by our coaching staff. So, but typically speaking, you're out of here, probably 5 or 6 during the practice season, and then obviously during the playing season, days are a lot longer.
So do you consider academics as kind of like your main duties within the office, like day by day? Because I know you talked about doing different tasks. Do you think that's one that you kind of?
Yeah, it's one I take a lot of pride in. I work with Jenny Womack, our academic coordinator. We speak, multiple times a day, and I'm constantly tracking on, not all 40 guys at one time, but there's certainly a dozen or so guys that we really, keep focus in on. But that's a big task of mine. Like I said, managing the budget. I coordinate all of our team travel and all of our meals and things like that. That takes a lot of time. And I mentioned I'm like the liaison between a lot of departments. So coordinating, our schedules with, sports medicine and strength and conditioning and nutrition, and then also compliance. I work a lot with compliance. I do all of our care logs and things like that. So, on any one given day, I could be consumed with academics, or I could be consumed with recruiting, planning a visit, official visits and things like that, or budgets. It's all days are different, which is one of the perks of the job.
You think those duties kind of change within spring to fall to summer?
Yeah.
Recruiting, there's a heavy period where we recruit.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think is the most rewarding thing about your job?
Well, I've been lucky. I'm going on, since I started at Michigan, about a decade of being in college baseball. And the most rewarding thing is the relationships for me. Getting to know the players and their families. With recruiting the way it is, you meet them when they're 16 years old. And I've been in it long enough to where those 16-year-olds are now, in their mid-20s, and they're, if they're in professional baseball, it's great, and it's fun to watch them and see how their careers progressed. Obviously the majority of them, they end up doing something other than baseball, but even that's, still rewarding, and being able to see what they do post baseball. That's the most rewarding thing by far.
Is there anything you dislike about this job?
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of hours, and you certainly do have to sacrifice, the family and social time, aspects of your life sometimes. So, certainly, when the family's going on a trip or something. Like last year, my wife and her family went to Europe. I had to skip that trip. So that's probably negative, but honestly, no. Outside of that, I like everything I do.
Do you think your job is more individualized or team-oriented?
Yeah, I think when you break it down, at the surface level, everything we do here is as a team. Even though I'm at my desk, for a good amount of time each day, working on things individually. At the end of the day, whatever the product is that we, produce, it's all team oriented. So I like to think of it that way. Even though, day to day, I'm doing a lot of stuff individually. But we work together on a lot of things, and with my office setup and desk setup, I work with two guys, within 5 feet of me, so we're constantly communicating and working on things
So
together.
it just depends kind of on the task of
Right.
whether it's team. All right,
Yep.
perfect. And this is kind of like a broad question of like, who do you report to? Like, with the budget, I know with academics you report to Jenny, but
Yep.
is there someone you have to always go through?
Yeah, at the end of the day, the head coach, the buck stops there, Coach Avon. But he's as I've progressed, in this job, year one, pretty much everything I had to run through him. Now year 5, he trusts me a little bit more. So, a lot of times, I'll still go through him, but there's some things I can make those decisions and kind of. But I also have to report to Chris Hart and pretty much the entire coaching staff. And ultimately, there's people above Coach Avon as well. With budgets, that ultimately goes all the way up to sport administrator and CFO and Debbie Howe, our athletic director. So all those people are ahead of me, and technically I report to them. But on a day-to-day basis, it's Coach Avon.
This is a question kind of about the operation. Does like all operations get like an annual review after?
Yeah, so we do mid-year and at the end of the season as well. Coach Avon is tasked by our administration to do what they call PRDs, which is just a performance review, and he does that for myself, for Coach Hart, Coach Chrysler, everybody on staff. So that's something that's done biannually.
Okay, perfect. Are there any opportunities for bonuses or incentives with being?
Yeah, I mean it depends on the job. We're lucky here that Coach Avon has a good contract in place, and one of the things that he fought for was for having a bonus structure in there for all of his full-time employees on staff. So I think it's just a postseason bonus. You get just an additional months of salary, which is big time, and then obviously it progresses as you progress within the postseason. But the main one is that extra month salary.
And what advice would you give me or someone choosing this career?
Network. I was lucky to get with the staff at Michigan that care about me as a person in my career. They saw some potential in me, and they guided me along and introduced me to some different people along the way. While I was in school, I did multiple internships. Not only at the collegiate level, but I worked in, when I was in college, I thought I wanted to work in professional baseball, so I worked independent baseball. I did single A, triple A, and major league internships, and all of those things, all those stops along the way, I met more people and learned some different things. So, networking, obviously, that helped me get to where I am today. All those experiences, and I learned something different. And really, what I was able to do in doing that was find my passion. Like I said, when I went to college, I thought I was a baseball player. I learned quick I wasn't going to be a baseball player, but I wanted to work in baseball. I thought that was at the professional level, and through the course of those, 3 or 4 internships I had in professional baseball, I learned that wasn't where I wanted to work. College baseball is where I wanted to work. So then focusing in on that area, networking within that, space, then, just working. When I was working at Michigan, when I started, I was unpaid and I did it for free, and progressed to where I made a little. And when I say a little, it was a little. And then, just continued to work hard, gave it 100%, didn't think about the next thing, and I was rewarded for that. So, certainly those relationships got me here to NC State, and whatever the next thing is, it's probably going to be based on those relationships and people I know.
Well, perfect. Well, appreciate you spending the time with me
Yeah.
and answering these questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks.